All right, welcome back. This is the third and last section of Safety Foundations. I titled this Foundations because what you've learned thus far is the foundation on which you'll build your safe team. Everything else is going to go on top of this, and just like a building, you've got to have the foundation right. Now, you might have heard at some point the old adage that safety is our #1 priority. Most of us have heard that. Or maybe in your business, you've even started calling safety a value. But what does that really mean? Right now, I'd like you to take out a piece of paper and draw a line down the center. On the left, write priorities, and on the right, write down values. Now pause the video and write down what priorities and what values mean to you under each column. For example, you might say production deadlines are a priority or values are a belief. Take 2 minutes and go through this, and then we'll start back up. Super. Now that you've got your list, I'm going to share with you the difference between the two. Knowing this will help you to solidify your foundation of safety. Okay, so let's talk through priorities first. The best way to think about priorities is to understand that they are externally driven. Priorities at work are things that are given to us, like a new initiative or a new process. Priorities change regularly based on conditions. It could be a customer, a change in business direction, or maybe even a change in people. They're shorter term and they get modified based on needs. You have priorities each day and every week that have to be addressed. These are things that you do in a certain order, and they change and give way to other priorities. Now let's contrast that with values. These are your internal beliefs. They're voluntary. They're what you have chosen to believe in. Your values drive your behavior, and they rarely change. Values are actually built into who you are. Priorities are external, and they can be simply bolted on. But where do you think safety falls into these two columns? Remember I said the slogan, safety is our #1 priority? Well, it's well intended, right? But this might be communicating something that you don't want, because when safety is just a priority, it's competing with all other priorities. In fact, as a frontline employee, I may be told safety is the top priority, or I might even be told it's a value. And that's okay, most of the time. But it's not internal to me. It's been something that's been externally imposed. It's a mandate. And I don't mind making safety first almost always. Until when? And when do you think safety stops being #1? Well, it stops being #1 when I have another priority that comes in. The production deadline that comes up, the customer request, the machine that's flashing at me saying that the line is going too slow or it's stopped. Safety is my priority until I have another, more urgent priority come up. And then I just shift those priorities around. I might even put safety back at the top after I've gotten through with this other priority. And this is where we often see shortcuts being taken and people getting hurt. You see, I can have all the great programs, policies, training, and even more, but if you've only made safety a priority, all that will be secondary when a new priority interferes. And it's not really a fair thing to do, giving an employee safety as a priority, competing with everything else, and then making them choose to react to which one is going to be most important in the moment. So what we've got to do is take safety out of that priority column and make it a value. Internal and constant, something that drives the individual because of belief. And here's the $1,000,000 question. How do you move safety from priority over to value? To create safety as a value, you need to link it to their already existing personal values. At the beginning of this module, you listed out what you value, and you likely put your family in the list of values. Many people do this. This is a great place where we can tie an existing value to safety through family. For example, you've probably heard the old way of coaching people on safety. Imagine you just saw Joe doing something unsafe. Perhaps you've said this yourself or heard something similar. Joe, I just saw you do that. That's not the way we do things around here. Our policy is XYZ. Does that communicate safety as a value to Joe? Or maybe you've adopted this new graduated level. Joe, I just saw you do this. Do you know what could have happened? I don't want to see you get hurt, Joe. Does that tie to Joe's values? Or did we only communicate that it's important to me? How might you change the script to tie it into what is important to Joe? Maybe you know Joe, and Joe's got kids in soccer. You know that he watched his kids' game last weekend. Could you tie your message to that? Yeah, of course you could. By saying something like, Joe, your kids have got more soccer games coming up. How would they feel if you couldn't go because you were hurt at work from doing this? Does that tie to what Joe values? Yes, of course it does. It does require that you have a level of trust and relationship with Joe to do this, though, right? Your relationship with your people and how you build trust will determine your success as a leader in safety and everything else. So you've got to be building those up so that you know your people in advance. By appealing to Joe's core value, you get past what he won't do for policy, or you, or even himself. But he will do it for what he values, because that's what drives his decisions. Now let's circle back to an earlier concept. Remember listing out the things you currently do for safety, and likely you had very little in the area of individual and internal beliefs? This is where our work on values and culture fits. Without an understanding of that big picture and how individual values are a part of your business, you won't achieve zero injuries. Once you master this piece, you will have the culture of safety, one where people are engaged, responsible for safety, actively creating a safe workplace. With these pieces, you can create an injury-free team. Approaching safety in this way ties it to values. Another important way of doing this is to simply ask people to consider why they value safety. Now, up front, they might not have thought about this a whole lot, so the answers might be all over the map. But you can work with them. Ask them, why is safety personal to you? You can help people make this internal connection. You're probably going to get an answer like, I don't want to see anybody get hurt, and that's why it's important to me. And that's a reasonable answer. That might even be the answer that you'd give right now. But we can help them conclude that it's not just about them. It's about the people that they love and care for. That's why we act for safety. By asking this question, even in the absence of seeing something unsafe, you can spur that discussion about who do you love and who depends on you working safely so that you can go home to them every night. Knowing this yourself and helping others to understand why safety is personal to them works on their internal belief system, and it helps to create safety as a value.